Thank you so much for coming tonight. I'm president of Save Acworth History Foundation. Tonight we're very excited to be talking about North Cobb football. So let me just ask, is there anyone here who played football for North Cobb? Lots of you. Thank you so much. And our moderator tonight is James Albright, our city manager, so I'm going to turn the program over to him.
Thank you, sir.
We went 9-1, just saying. Just saying.
And they rival some of the teams that Coach Queen's had over the years. So, fortunately, I'm able to moderate this. Thank you, Becca, for asking me. I'm interested tonight to learn a little bit more. Graduated North Cobb in 2000, so I'm familiar with that era. And then Coach Queen's got his era, and then the Richards family have been involved during all the eras, essentially. There, so. Jimi and Regina, why don't y'all start off? So your story starts in the early 70s, correct? Mm-hmm. And you're not a North Cobb alum, correct?
Both is closed.
Right down the street at Sprayberry, right?
Old Sprayberry.
And there was this girl that hung out at North Cobb High School that you came in contact with. Why don't you tell everybody about that story?
Yeah. Well, back in the 70s, Cobb County schools had what they called technical high school. They had welding, they had electrical work, they had printing, and I was in the printing class when school started, and I was looking out the window when we had breezeways in between the classes, and I was standing in the window and I looked over there and my eyes locked up on this long brown haired girl with a big bright North Cobb drill team uniform. Orange, white, and I looked over there. And I asked Mr. Roper, our teacher, I said, Mr. Roper, what's that over there? It looks like it's a hole full of girls. That's something they call a computer data processing stuff they got going on. Oh, and my buddy and I were standing there. Mr. Roper, can we transfer that class? He goes, well, I might as well because you're going to be staring at that window. So he let us transfer over there. We walked in, my buddy. He walked in there and goes, whoa, the whole class is girls. I just looked at one girl. And that was September the 15th, 1971. And I went over there and asked her, I said, hey, we'll go out, we'll go on a date. She said, yeah, but you'll have to come to the football game. Because she performed on the drill team. We'll go out to pizza after the game. I said, okay. That was, we beat the future 23-0. First football game we went to. And went to that game, and that started our Friday night dates together.
Did you go to Russo's Pizza?
There was Russo's, Gino's, Italian Village. Everybody, all the schools came to
Yeah.
because there wasn't a whole lot of places to go to. And I was just showing Coach this earlier. When we had our 50th wedding anniversary, this was given to us by one of Regina's classmates because it means so much. Keep in mind, September 15th. September the 15th, 1972, is when I asked her to marry me at a football game. We were seniors in school, with her parents' permission. So we had to finish school first, and after we graduated, went to her dad and said, well, what are we going to do about this wedding? We're not going to have it. Before we could say anything, her mother goes, September the 15th. So September the 15th is always something in our life. But I'm telling Coach, just one thing about Acworth, back in the day, you used to see these all over town. All the businesses would have them up, and I'm just so proud to have that. It means a lot to us. But anyway, went to the football games. And we got married, kept going to the games. I worked on the freight docks, drove over the road. Some Friday nights I couldn't get home, so I would stop at a truck stop and use the payphone. Didn't have cell phones back here, young people. So I find out the scores, WSB radio, WFOM radio would give the breakdown of the scores, and I'd find out the scores. And come to the games when we could together. A lot of history with football. It's just with North Cobb, you can't say anything about North Cobb unless you mention Acworth High School. Coach Albert Matthews, first coach at North Cobb, come to Acworth in 1950 until they moved after 1958 season. He coached my father, James Richards. Back then they called him Slick Richards because he kept his hair slick all the way back. Didn't have a hair out of place. And my uncle Bobby Newberry lived on Park Street. And the tragedy of that is that fall of 1953, my Uncle Bobby was seriously injured in a football game. And you're talking about the 1950s. They had taken him to Grady. Took a while to get him to Grady. It split his spleen and his liver, and it messed up his heart. And they tried to do all they could for him, and everybody thought he was on the mend. And December 15th, 53, he died at home over on Park Street. And this whole town shut down to remember him because of the person he was. And 17 years later at Sprayberry, Coach Matthews became assistant principal. And I went to the office, well, I'm full disclosure, I got sent to the principal. I don't volunteer to go to the principal office. Anyway, I went to the office and there he was sitting behind that desk. And y'all remember Coach Matthews, he was an imposing figure to look at. Anyway, Coach Matthews goes, "What are you up here for?" And I said, "Well, I can't remember what it was." He said, "What's your name?" I said, "Jimi Richards." And he looked at my sheet, he looked up and he goes, "You any kin to Slick Richards?" I said, "Yes, sir, it's my father." And he goes, "It's time for me to retire." But right then and there, he started talking about Uncle Bobby. It always stayed with him over the years. Been a few years ago before he passed away, you had him at North Cobb. And I got to talk to him again, and he brought up Uncle Bobby.
So
All those years it got to him. So yeah.
One thing people might not know is North Cobb football was the first football in Cobb County to require an ambulance to be at every game. And that was because of Dr. George Cobb. I knew this because Dad was best friends with Dr. George and also Coach Emery Sewell. And once North Cobb did that, then the Cobb County came in and said, okay, we're going to require that in all the schools. So it could be because of your uncle.
Well, you know, the way things were back then, it's just all those years Coach Matthews never forgot. And we got to know Coach Sewell. Regina graduated. Well, Susan was a year behind me, I think. Coach Sewell's daughter. Coach Carter's daughter. Yeah, and well, Coach Matthews' son, Brett Matthews, he graduated from college. And all these years we're still friends. We keep in touch with each other. Some of them wish they could have been here tonight. But it's just that everything that North Cobb is to us as Acworth. I would live a mile and a half outside the zone. I couldn't go to North Cobb. My heart did though. And so we got married, kept coming to all the games. My nephew. Every Friday night was our date night.
Date night, go to the football game.
And at the end of last season, we had 521 games. This fall will be our 55th season at North Cobb. We don't know anything else to do. And y'all killing us in these double bye weeks. We had to go hunt for a football game. We'll go to Commerce, our son's high school, whatever. But you know, it's just the coaches we've known over the years. Tyler one day showed us the wall that they got with all the numbers and jerseys, and it really hit me then when you were one of the names. And to see the coaches and players all of the years that's come through there. I know
We've been through,
oh.
we have been through, you know, like nobody sitting in the stands
No.
watching football because North Cobb wasn't that great, but we were there.
Yeah.
So I mean,
You could spill a Coca-Cola.
yeah, we could throw something and not hit anybody because nobody was there.
That's a good opportunity to kind of transition here because some of you, I think Bill was talking about his team was 8-1, 9-1. He's proud of that. But I can tell you, from what I know, there has not been the level of sustained success that North Cobb's seen in the last 20 plus years. And the reason for that is the man that's sitting there on the end of the table. So, Coach, you started off in a different orange at South Cobb playing football. You ended up going on to Tennessee Tech and back to be the coach at South Cobb. And I've heard you tell this story many a times, but you had probably a lot of opportunities. You had good success at South Cobb. And probably at that time, North Cobb probably wasn't one of the more lucrative jobs out there. What did you see that drew you to North Cobb? Like, why North Cobb versus maybe some of the other opportunities that were out there then?
Well, I'll never forget coming up and visiting my wife, and I was driving through town, and the sign, and it may still be down there, but it was said, City of Acworth, it's all about the kids. And that struck a nerve with me from the day, and it still proves it's that way today. Our community, you know, everybody asks what does it take to have a successful program? There's so many intangibles. It takes a village to raise a child, but I think a community that embodies the school and the traditions, and obviously people, you know, everywhere I go, I could be on a cruise in the middle of the Bahamas, Bonaire, Aruba, and if somebody sees an NC on me, they come run. I mean, I see, my wife said, we can't go anywhere. Oh, I've been in the ocean in Honduras, and somebody yelled, I had a North Cobb hat on, but I just think the love of this community, the love of our school, and you see that NC everywhere, but that was probably the biggest thing when I started meeting people, and obviously 20 years later, the relationships I've developed. As we get older, those things become the most important, and I wouldn't change it a bit. And I'd go back and maybe make a different call on third and 8 or something. But as far as coming to North Cobb, the greatest thing that ever happened to me, and both of my kids got to go to North Cobb and be with me every day and spend time with my kids in a school setting, and I wouldn't change that for anything. Yes, sir.
Who was the principal there? Who hired you?
Gary Bowling. Yeah, Gary Bowling. And I'll be, you know, God works in mysterious ways. When we were coming off a 9-1 season at South Cobb. We had beaten the teacher and won the Regina championship for the first time in like 27 years at South Cobb. People were like, why? We had 35 seniors coming back. Well, my son was in 2nd grade, and our community was changing a little bit, and he was in our magnet program, and I needed to get him in a better school system, and that's why we sacrificed and left a team 9-1 to come to a team that was 2-8. So I was scared to death, to be honest with you, but I knew I had to sacrifice for my family, and we've all done that, and God has blessed us, and like I said, it's been the greatest decision as far as professionally, or my profession that I've ever done.
Well, a lot of people forget nowadays you're not just a head coach, you're a general manager of a football program. Like, it's almost to the collegiate level. And if you haven't had the opportunity to come on campus lately, the amount of fundraising that they've had to do, the work that they've done, from locker rooms to weight facilities to, Coach was just telling me, tell a little bit about how far the advances is. You're talking about potentially having a food service area for your athletes to make sure that they have proper nutrition throughout the day.
Well, you know, this goes all back to relationships. I'll be honest with you, the first 15 years I was there, you know, we had people involved, people donating a little bit, helping our program, obviously, but our budgets went from probably $60,000 when I first got there, it's about $370 now. And it goes back to our kids. I mean, we've got 4 or 5 sets of uniforms, and it takes a lot to do that. But the thing about it is about in year 15, I had people start walking up and say, how can I help a program? As people I had relationships with for 15 years. It took that long. If you have a program that has 5 different head coaches over those 15 years, you're not going to have this. But Chris Myers walked in and said, how can I have a program? I said, we need a jumbotron so we can turn this thing up and start raising. We got to raise money to compete against the Bufords and the Miltons in this state. And he said, how much would it cost? I told him, he said, I'll do half. Well, that was awesome, but I didn't know where I was going to get the other half. So days was awesome and helped us with the other half. And then the next week, I was out on the field, and this guy, I see him coming across the field. We're doing a football camp for our young guys. And, you just don't walk on the field. He's walking across the field, and I almost said, "Can I help you, sir?" But thank goodness I kept my mouth shut, and that don't happen often. But he said, "Hi, my name is so-and-so, and I just would like to know how I can help your program." This was 2 or 3 weeks later. And I said, "Well, sir, I don't want to, insult your, how much you're worth or whatever." I said, "But how much money are you talking about?" He said, "You tell me." I said, "I got to play." I went and showed him the locker room. Well, that guy goes to the Caribbean for a month, and he starts calling me back. "Why haven't you sent me a quote?" Wait, I said, "Because it's a lot more than I thought it was going to be." Well, he said, "Send me your routing number." So I met this guy for 5 minutes. The next morning, I wake up, and there's $70,000 in our Booster Club account. And again, I'd met this guy for 5 minutes, but he had just heard what we were doing with our kids there. Then we put $130,000 in our weight room. And then we got a team room of where all our players can come and sit. It looks like a Division I team room. And you guys got to come on campus to see it because you can't see it from the road, obviously. But now we're transitioning. We always wonder how we can stay away from ahead of our opponents. We do a mental health thing with we have a leadership committee that we work with our young people. We have godly men. Todd's one of them. We have godly men come on our campus, just love on our guys every day. Again, building those relationships with our young ones. And then, as James was talking about, we are now going to build a nutrition, basically a fuel room where our guys can come by and get breakfast when they come to school, because a lot of them come from homes, they don't eat breakfast when they come to school. During COVID, they were all getting free lunch and free breakfast, and that's went away. So then we give them snacks and stuff before workouts, after workouts. We feed them after practice so they don't go home without a meal, because some of them do. So just trying the holistic approach of taking care of them, academically, physically, nutritionally. Our team GPA is over 3.2. I'm proud of that. For the last 11 years, we got 10 guys over a 4.0. So our guys are not only winning on the football field, they're also winning in life. And if you win on the scoreboard but you lose in life, I think you've got an empty feeling. But I think our players are doing both.
So Jimmy and Regina, I'm going to ask Coach a very similar question after this. And I know as a coach, there's always those teams that really stick out to you, or those special seasons. Were there any seasons over those 500 plus games, a game, a memorable moment, a team that really kind of stands out to you?
79.
79, 12-1.
Play Clark Central.
We played Clark Central.
Go see him play Clark.
We were robbed.
We were robbed.
And you were there, the film later showed, Clark Central did not make a touchdown. Neither there. But, back on that, our school's first region win, regional trophy that year was Coach Matthews, and then later on, I think it was Roscoe Cardinal. And then this fella comes in, got to do better. What we got, 7? It took us 27 years before we saw another region championship. But Cobb had 7 of them. Just the games we've seen. Our son, he's a statistician for Commerce City High School. And he brought something up to me that at the end of the season, there's been 712 games played at North Cobb, and Regina and I have seen 73% of them. Wow. That kind of really, I love football, doesn't we don't have nothing.
That's commitment.
But no, the 79 and the first year, the second year you were here, we won that region championship. We won the, what was it? I went nuts over it. The rock, the top of the rock. Here, we got the top of the rock trophy. We always lost it first, but we got that. And I'm not because you're here, but I'm going to tell a story. When Coach Queen first come here, then this little boy kept running up and down sidelines while the game was going on. He's tossing the football to his buddies, you know. And then found out it was Tyler, about second grade. He'd run up and down the field, throwing sidelines, throwing the ball. And then fast forward, it was a Marietta game. Our first string quarterback, and can't remember the name, he got injured, had to be taken out of the game. Second string went in there, dang if he didn't get hurt. And if you ever been to Marietta visitors, you're the way you sit there at the visitor side, you're looking right there at the team. I mean, they're right there. You can hear everything and see everything. And then Coach Queen goes out there midfield to the quarterback, and they help him get up, come walking. About halfway back, Coach Queen kind of looked at the bench, and he had that aha moment. He goes, "Well, boy, get your helmet, come on." You were a freshman, and he put you out there, and the rest was history, because he's the best quarterback ever been at North Cobb. 8,000 something yards. 8,900, yeah.
Oh, yeah, but who's taking track?
But, you know, just
Well, we just looked it up. He's still in top 10.
top 10 in the state. But to see you, and not just Tyler, that's something else I love about the school. We've got Tom Clark, graduated, played football, come back, taught. Tyler, and if I forget anybody, I apologize. Dante Sawyer, one of my favorite receivers.
Coach Rainey.
Coach Rainey, we had
Calvin coach for a while.
Calvin come here for a while.
Fred Merch.
Oh, Mike Fredberg, yeah, you guys remember him back in the day, went to Georgia, played football. He's back with his son, who I will say is probably a better football player than Dad is. And he's a big kid. And Mike's back with his family. And Jacob Longacre. Just to see the kids that went here and come back home. Whether they're just teachers or whether they just come back and a teacher coach or just come back to the community and you work with the Acworth youth program and all, just sit there,
Yeah, come back
brag about you.
and give back
But
to the
it's just, that's the way North Cobb is. It's what they put out there. And every year when we have the banquet, the food's okay, but I want to hear the kids,
Accolades.
all the GPAs. I mean, I didn't know you could get, well, back in my day, there was no such thing as a 4.9. But to see what the kids have done off the field more than on the field. Just last week, the football players went out to the elementary schools and read to the kids.
Well, the other part of that too is if you have been around, to tag on what Mr. Jimi's saying, is a lot of our teachers and staff are also in North Cobb.
Yeah.
Our newly appointed softball coach is Bailey Arnaud. She had played for Coach Weaver back in the day, and our head girls basketball coach Ray Savage. She also played for Coach Williams, who's been a coach and teacher there for 20-something years and is our AD now. So we have a lot of North Cobb people still at North Cobb. And a lot of the teachers that I had when I went through and graduated from there are still there too. So that's one of the most unique things I think about this place is the retention and people that come here and don't leave.
We all know this in the room. North Cobb has a wide influence on this community, not just within it, but it's interesting. So I graduated in 2000 from North Cobb. The principal at Alatoona and the principal from Harrison, both, we all graduated together in the same class. So it's interesting, North Cobb has always had a pretty profound influence here. It's a coach. A lot of special memories over 21 years. What are a few that stick out in your mind? Some of your favorites?
Probably one of the quarterfinal game against Mill Creek. We were down 21-7. And, went in the locker room and our kids were handling business. They always say a player-driven team is better than a coach-driven team. And I never said a word that night because I saw our seniors taking control of that football game. We went back out in the second half. I think Tyler had 4 touchdowns in the second half, and we upset a team that was picked to win the state championship. That was awesome. The year we beat MLK, we kicked the field goal. We only had 9 people on the field. But we were out of timeouts and we rushed the field. We didn't even have enough people on the line of scrimmage. I can't believe they didn't call it, but it was so much chaos. And I can't believe they didn't block the field goal because we literally had 9 people out there. And we
And
kicked.
22 Division I players on that team.
Yes, and we upset them. The first time we beat Harrison, you know, I don't know if y'all remember Jonathan Taylor went on the plate for Georgia and he got paralyzed playing baseball up there, but he blocked it. He blocked the extra point and we won that game. And I think they had lost like 9 or 10 straight. That was special, but it all runs Tyler's first win. Obviously, one of my first playoff win. We were playing Valdosta, who you older guys played. They're the winningest program in the history of football in the United States, and I'll never forget. They tied. I think they scored to tie it up, and I'm going nuts on the sideline. And Tyler said, "Dad, relax. I got this." That's a good feeling when your son, you know. And I'll never forget the next drive he throws a touchdown, and he comes running down the sideline doing this to me, you know. And it makes you go from 6'2" to 6'4". You know?
How is that experience? So I know Coach Clark had the same experience in terms of coaching his kids. I've had this experience this year. I've got my high school certification. I coach my son's wrestling team. He reaches the state finals. I tell people like, how you doing? I'm like, it's different when it's your kid out there. Like,
We're more nervous than they are.
Right, I've coached 1,000 kids in my life, but man, coaching him, it is just different. Heart racing, like you can't stop pacing. What was it like to have the opportunity to coach your own kids? Not every high school coach gets that opportunity.
Well, it's probably harder on him than it was on me. Like, I remember going to Coach Clark one day and said, I said, was I as hard on Tyler as he said I was? He said, you probably were. But I didn't want parents or players to ever think he was the only player. He was third string and 2 guys got hurt and he came in and won the position. But after the losses, his mom and I were divorced. He went to his mom's house for the weekend. So we kind of separated for a couple of days, came back together on Monday, but it was the greatest thing ever. And, you know, I wish I would have slowed down and even enjoyed it more. I was younger, you know, and now you have to reflect and remember those memories. But I wish I would have just slowed down and realized how special those 4 years were. And also got my daughter went to school there, was all county, all state, and so was Tyler in his sport, and she was in softball. So not many parents can say that and get to do that. But when he left now, you know, it was he and I for a long time because I was single, but he was with me every day. When I was at South Cobb and when I was at North Cobb, I went in and told the principal, I'm a father first before I'm a coach, and I always took 4th period off. 4th period is the last period of the day, and I always told the principals, I got to go get my son from school, and he'll tell you every day. When he was at Altry, he walked over the hill, but I would go get him every day. And
there would be college coaches in his truck, like when they
we would go pick him up.
and they would come pick me up. Like Coach Bobo's been in the truck and come pick me up before. Like it's been too soon, but it was.
But after 12, 13 years, because it was K3 to 12th grade, when he left that semester, he graduated early in that January. I remember walking down the hall thinking, where's my buddy? It was tough, you know, because it's that separation when he had been at school with me every day for 12 or 13 years. So that took a minute to get used to.
Now you got an even rarer opportunity to have him stalk the sidelines with you on Friday nights.
Well, I think we butt heads sometimes, but again, it's, you know, I've had to call him and apologize a bunch of times. Hey, I love you anyway, you know, but we're both competitive and we both want what's best for that school and our program and our young men. So, you know, that's going to happen, but at the end of the day, we do what's best for our players.
So North Cobb always had the local legends, kids that maybe went on to play college football. That was a big deal. But one thing that, you know, in your generation of coaching we've seen is we've seen kids compete at the collegiate level, not just the lower, you know, D2, D3, but D1. You got possibly a draft pick this year coming, Joshua Josephs. How cool is that to be able to start to see these kids, even in the conversation of being drafted, or starting in a big championship game at the collegiate level. What does that mean to you?
Well, you know, you go back to Darren Waller, and I was so smart, I played him on defense. He's an all-pro tight end. But you have him, Chandler Wooten last year was with the Panthers and 49ers, and you know, now Josh Joseph. It's neat to see those guys because it's a lot of work. Now, it used to be seasonal. You can't do this sport at the highest level without it being year-round. We don't even use the word off-season anymore. We're not practicing or playing games, but we're in the weight room. I don't think we use the word off-season anymore, but because it is year-round, and for these guys to be great. And I miss that a little bit because I know there's not a lot, but I want our kids to be involved in multiple things and multiple sports, and you know, and we kind of got away from that a little bit. But to see those guys, their dreams come true, even to sign when they're sitting there, and Jimmy's been to all of ours, those guys that sit there and sign those scholarships, and you guys know how expensive school is now. So I mean, kids have gone to Duke for $72,000 a year. You know, it's just crazy the amount of money that they're. And I got kids making $750,000, $1 million a year playing college football right now. I would have never fathomed that. You know, they're making in 1 year what in my lifetime. Yeah, you know, it's a business, and we've had to change with that. I got a sophomore running back that's got an agent. You know, I never thought I'd see that. Got a junior quarterback that opted to leave a year early. Notre Dame's paying him to come early. He's making $16,000, $20,000 a week right now. He ain't even left. He's not even left Acworth
What
yet.
do you think of that?
What do I think
Taking
about?
high school and college kids.
I do think they deserve, I mean, because when Kirby Smart's making $13 million a year, I think the kids need to get paid something, but I think there needs to be a limit to it. I think they need to,
Parameters.
they need to learn, for one, I think the financial literacy, and you hear that commercial every day. It's the hardest thing to teach your kids unless you're an accountant, unless you grew up in that. And I think I've seen kids that their families take, and then they get out of school, they have nothing, you know, where I wish they would say, hey, 70% of this you have to put away. Where I've got a friend that, you know, he coached in Sprayberry. His family gave him the one rule. You can have one of anything you want. He played for the 49ers. You can have one car. I don't care how nice it is. You only have one. You have one watch, one house, where they taught him to buy, you know, not to waste all his money. But I think I'll be honest with you, I think it's hurt. You see Saban speak to the presidential committee this week. It's taken away. We don't talk about degrees anymore. We don't talk about education. Some of these guys are going to 5 schools in 4 or 5 years, and it's taken away from the old heads that we've got because we love the game of football. We love every year their roster changes. There are no relationships. It's become, you know, transactional. Basically, it's all about who's paying the most money.
Jimi and Regina, any players that stick out over time previous to maybe coaches starting North Cobb in the early 2000s that you looked at and you were like, that was a memorable player, that was one of the better players we had to watch?
Well, one of my favorite, the Wooten brothers, just to get them all.
Oh, yeah. All of them.
All the Wooten brothers, 79 team, David Scandrett. I think he went to Tennessee and went to play Memphis Showboats.
Yeah.
I think he did. And, oh goodness.
The player I hated coaching it was Freddie Piscata.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ended up playing at Georgia Southern, winning a national
Couple
championship.
championships, yeah. He goes to church at North Star now,
Yeah.
and they come back home, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there've been so many kids over the years, and Tyler showed me that wall last year. And a lot of it comes back and you see those names.
And I've seen every one of them, and you know, there's so many. It's just hard to pick one that's your favorite because it's like, oh, this season is, you know, I love watching this person, or I love watching that person, and it changes every year. And you're just so proud to see them continue on and, you know, do what they want to do is play football and continue, you know, to enjoy what they do instead of making it a
James, I do want to brag on these guys even more. Like, you know, they're at everything we do when we had a coaching show, but they take on our kids like they adopt our kids. You know, we've got a kid on our team that single mom that if he needs something, these guys that come in as a coach, let me know how I can help his family. And that's what makes our community special. We've got churches and men in our community that if one of our kids are hurting or about to get evicted or about, you know, we do life together. It's not just football. I can go to these men and say, this family needs help. You know, they're struggling right now. And there's so many men and women and people in this community and churches that stand up and say, I'll stand in this gap for these guys. And that's why I've never left. I mean, and it's hard to step away and retire. I mean, it's my 32nd year. I retired 2 years ago, and I'm in a different phase, but that's what I'm gonna miss the most, the people that make our school and our community and our program. Yes, sir.
I think you answered the question I was going to ask, but year after year, North Cobb has been in the top 10 in the state, you know, to start the season and in the biggest division in the state. You had to have been tempted somewhere along the way by these colleges to, you know, have you ever come pretty close to saying, you know, I can go up a level very easily?
I've talked about it, but I knew my calling. You know, I played for Mike Smith, the Falcons head coach. I never asked him, you know, we still talk to this day. After you get, in our retirement's very good too. So if you guys that teachers retirement, they used to talk about how, I told my coach, I wasn't going to go into teaching, and he asked me about it, and I said, I don't want to be poor all my life. Come to find out, we've got some good raises over the years, but you know, you get to a certain point, you're like, man, I can see the retirement. I've taken 15, 20 years to get here. You guys are in education, and that 3% raise every year ain't too bad, is it either?
He succeeded Coach Clark. And Coach Clark was coming back with you for a period of time. And, you know, I think a lot about Coach Clark was during my era there. And I played football freshman year and then realized there wasn't much room for a 5'10" quarterback that couldn't run or throw. I went to a wrestling mat, finished out my high school career. But I remember Coach Clark. He was such an incredible guy, like imposing figure. You know, if you're in the weight room and you're not doing what you need to do, you catch that big brick of a hand in your ribs to motivate you. But you know, it's people. You know, who are those people in your life that motivated you to become a coach? And what was it like coaching with Coach Clark? Coach Palmer was in North Cobb there for a period of time too, who I know coached you at South Cobb. What was that like? That generational change there.
Yeah, I mean, I remember. It's the hard nose. I mean, it's obviously different the way we have to coach young men. You can still be stern, but they used to put their hands on you. Nowadays you be on the news and be fired. I remember being at camp with Coach Clark since then. I'm like, wow. There was no cameras back then, thank goodness. But the kids loved it, and that's how you know. But Coach Palmer was that guy. He never told you good job. He would remind you. If you were a senior and you messed up as a freshman, he was still reminding you the day you messed up as a freshman. But I love that, and it made me be a better. Now some people have broken, you know, and I think that's probably something that we're missing now that us older heads had, the grit, and if a coach wore you out, it made you mad. You wanted to perform well, and you had too much pride to quit. Where these kids nowadays have too many options. And there's something to do on every corner in that cell phone, and you know, so you do have to approach them differently. And I think the good coaches now find out what triggers you, for what pushes your button. I got to find out. I might have to yell at this one because he needs some yelling, but I may have to pat this one and build him up because his mom beats him. You know, he might have a rough family life. So my favorite parts are the rides home. And Tyler will tell you this: is you get to know the kids.
Yeah.
You know, a couple years ago, this kid didn't even play for us. He was not good enough to play, but he stuck around for some reason and never walked on the field, but he was a senior. And I saw him waiting for a ride, and I rolled down my window and I said, do you need a ride? He said, Coach, I just got an Uber. And I said, cancel that Uber and get in my car. So I was taking him home, and I pulled up, and I'm like, is your mom home? And he said, yes, sir, he said, but our cars broke down. We hadn't had a car for 6 or 7 weeks, you know, and I said, what's wrong? And so I asked him, so as soon as I got off the phone, I called North Star, and I got that kid's car fixed, and the next day I told him, I said, you didn't get to play, but God had you playing football for a reason, and you just saved your mom $4,800, you know, and you're part of our team whether you play or not, so we're gonna get that car fixed for you. So those are the kind of things that happen on a day-to-day basis that people don't see behind the scenes. And we've got some needy kids. What's amazing about our community, we got some that live in $1 million homes, and we got some that live in extended stay that's 2 days away from getting evicted. So we got a wide variety of young men, and you got to find out, you know, what we can do for each of us.
I always want to tell that story again that I mentioned a few minutes ago before you started. A couple of years ago, Alan and I showed up at North Cobb just unannounced. We're both in the Hall of Fame, and we wanted to see our plaques up and all of that. And you stopped everything you were doing and got somebody to cover your class and spent an hour with us walking around the school showing us. And that was, of course, very impressive. Back when I played football there was no weight room at all. There was one bench on the stage, just one bench, one bar. There was no track. We practiced running around the football field on the track team. It was on and on. So we were very impressed with what all has gone on there. But what impressed me the most was, number one, you acted like we were somebody important. And you treated us, didn't know us from Adam's house cat, spent time with us, walked all around, but we were standing outside your classroom and two guys show up with their backpacks on maybe 30 seconds late.
One was the very highly talented quarterback.
Yeah, and you, excuse me, hey guys, come here. And you pulled them back out, made them take off their backpacks and do push-ups in the hallway. And I thought, you know, because I don't like what I see going on in sports with all the money and the touting, and it just doesn't seem like there's sportsmanship. Not there at North Cobb. I could see in just the time we were with you, you were teaching these kids so much. You taught us about the Board of Education. If their grades drop low, they got to push a 2x4 across the field with their head. And I'm thinking, you've done a lot more than the great program that you built up there. And I respect the heck out of that.
Thank you, sir. We have a saying, warrior for life.
Oh, yeah. Well, that goes to the rich tradition of North Cobb. We talked about it earlier and how widely influenced this community is by this. So I want to bring up kind of probably a funnier topic now than when it first came on board. And I'd ask y'all first before Coach gets to chime in and defend himself or throw somebody else under the bus for this. So when you have tradition, you have kind of standard uniforms, right? So and they were the way they were for a long time. Then you get this guy that comes in the early 2000s and the program changes and there's some new uniforms. So now that you know Coach, right? What was that feeling like initially seeing them come out in the Auburn colors the first time?
Well, I started.
He still wears me out. If I see him in the community, I have a blue shirt on. We have blue. He's like, "Where's your arms?" So tonight I wore my
He
arms.
knew we were gonna be here. Well, it's always been orange and white.
Okay, you started off with Acworth.
Acworth.
Okay, Acworth was orange and black. That was the colors. Okay, so when the orange and black, and then of course some of the kids came from Sprayberry, and then theirs was, you know, the gold and white, and they used the black. So they used the students that got together decided, okay, well, we'll take the white from Sprayberry and the orange, you know, from Acworth High, and that'll be North Cobb's colors. And it was always what we call the, you know, like the Crayola crayon orange. That's the orange, not this, you know, Tennessee orange or anything like that. Any variation is like, nah, I'm not on my list.
So I heard you tell the story earlier. So was that a decision that you made, or was it an administration decision?
The change.
Yeah.
They were Auburn fans, and that decision was made before I got
principal
the
and
job.
athletic director, right?
But I took the heat for it. I don't know if it's Facebook back then, but I remember the MySpace or whatever it was back then, get more outs, but I did go to the principal, I said, you're gonna get me killed, so he bought us a new set of orange jerseys we can wear.
One year they did have these yucky, you know, like I call the
Pale.
paled. I said, that was like a creamsicle out there. I said, no.
But in all fairness, since Shane's been here, they've been more
A little
orange.
more orange, yeah, because he
North
knows
Cobb.
how I am about
Well, it
it.
also goes to show winning takes care of a lot of things too. Because after you win a little bit, people start forgetting about those old uniforms that may not have worn quite as much.
Yeah, that's true.
But you'd be surprised when we go out of town, an away game, you know, and we'll get to town and we'll go, let's go over here and eat. The first thing you do when you walk in there,
You look for orange.
looking for orange.
That stands out.
We'll go sit in the restaurant and people come in and go Warriors! They look for the orange. So it kind of, you know, makes the traveling fans feel good when they can find orange. But, you know, that's how it came about, because a lot of the Sprayberry and Acworth merged to make North Cobb, and that's how the orange and white come about. I mean, y'all remember the Orange Crush?
Oh, yeah.
You know, y'all remember Orange Crush? Served Orange Crush bottles at the concession stand. The whole side of that building said "Go Big Orange," but no, I'm gonna wear orange and white. I got a little blue, but you know, I'm not allowed to wear it around that. You gotta keep the
Some of
feet.
us have to go through the season where, you know, my son goes now to tennis, so I've got this closet full of coaching, baseball, football, wrestling, all these. I got a whole orange closet, and up in the corner, there's this red and black section. Henry.
Shane, you may be fixing to ask Shane to give us a quick rundown on this year's team. I don't want to steer you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Quarterback.
Quarterback.
We had a kid move in from Milton. I thought we had one returning, signed with Notre Dame, but they paid him to leave early. So, but just like in college, I said we had to go. We didn't have a young man in school to play 7A football, so the word's out though. Our school is attractive because of all the things we talked about. So as soon as somebody heard that our quarterback was leaving, we had phone call after phone call. People want to come to Acworth, regardless if it's the school, the community. Acworth is a great place to live and be at. So we had a young man move in from Milton. His family's from Estonia. Hard nosed. I love him. The kids love him. He works. We've got a very talented football team. We're still going to be young, but it's a good youth. Our freshman, sophomore, and junior class may be the best three. Now, we've had some good football teams, don't get me wrong, but usually you have a great senior class of juniors, but we've got a lot of talent, and they're working as hard and they're great kids. That's what I love. I can't wait to get there every day to hang out with them. 10 of them went to work for 1885 the other night. They had the thing up at Cherokee. Is it the sheriff's thing they do every year? 10 of them went up there to work for 1885, and Lauren called me and said, man, this is the best group of kids I've ever worked with.
Our biggest headache on a daily basis is party. I mean, these kids are phenomenal with what they do on and off the field. Just to piggyback off what you said.
Great kids.
Who are some players to look out for this season?
Well, our running back he's got probably 40 or 50 offers. He looks like he ought to be playing in the SEC right now. Zach Bellew, the quarterback, Ben Halevi, Coach Fredenberg's son, Madden, a big offensive tackle. Our whole defensive front's going, all of them's back. We've got C.J. Williams, a big nose tackle that's played in our program the whole time. He's almost 300 pounds. Keegan Baines, big defensive end. It's going to be a Division I kid. Tyler, how many kids do we have with Division I offers right now? He does my recruiting stuff. 12, so, you know. And what I love is, you know, North Cobb's got more kids playing college football than any school in Cobb County right now. And there's 17, 18 high schools. And Tyler and one of my other coaches spend all day helping those guys get recruited. But they've got to do their part too. They've got to do it right in the classroom. They've got to be outstanding young men, or I'm not going to recommend them. But we've averaged the last 10 years about 35 to 40% of our senior class. And the national average is about 3% of kids going on to play at the next level. So they're well-rounded young men, and they're taking care of business in the classroom.
So our time is coming to a close. Maybe one more question if anybody's got one from the audience.
I went to North Cobb 91 to 95. I was there with Jimi and Regina, so we were friends.
Yes.
Football, like James said, was bleak back then. It wasn't a whole lot of fun to watch. My son's a sophomore there now, and we have a blast. Going to games, listening to Joel on the radio, it's kind of a bonding thing we have now, so that's a fun thing. Thank you for that, first off.
Yes.
Secondly, aside from the NIL trickle down, what is the biggest difference in your first year of coaching to now?
I would probably say the commitment level, like when I first started coaching, you could look at your schedule and you could have, there was 3 or 4 teams that you knew your JV was going to play by halftime. Now everybody's good. So you have to, we used to say we're going to win in the weight room. Well, everybody started lifting you around. What are we going to do next? Well, now we're going to start watching more film and we're going to get huddle and we're going to give our kids an opportunity to get ahead watching film and doing those things. And we'll go to clinics and learn. But when everybody started doing that, well, now it's things like, can we feed them 3 times a day? Because you imagine some of our kids that don't eat, if we can feed them 3 times a day for 4 years, and we're very thankful that we got churches in the community that help us, and we've got a food pantry where our kids can walk in there anytime during the day and get food. They're not going to go hungry, and it's stopped. I mean, it's what's that?
So you can't walk, there's no room to walk.
Gatorades, waters, we give them milk, and that's when we build this nutrition lab or whatever you want to call it, it's going to be much more organized and we'll have somebody in there running it all day. But just, I would say the commitment at the time, because, you had seasons. Everybody played football, then they went to basketball. And nowadays, I mean, we are working it. After that last loss, whatever, the next Monday, this next season starts. I mean, we do not have a break. And these kids get 2 weeks off a year. They get July 4th off, and then they get the first week in June. Every other week, even when we have spring break and stuff, we still open the weight room for them if they're in town. So the commitment level of these guys, it's tremendous, and especially balancing some of them work 30 hours a week. I mean, we've got kids that leave football practice and go work for 2 or 3 hours, get home at 12 o'clock and back to school at 7. So for them to balance all that, they're grown men before they even get out on their own.
Just kind of, you asked me about games and all players, but there's local characters that involved with North Cobb. Everybody knows Mr. Fred Key. We sat next to Fred for 32 years, and he was probably the biggest influence on us to be Warrior fans. And to be there no matter what, and always be at the games. And one game in particular, y'all remember Phil Roebuck when he was our PA, our game announcer, 1980. Regina and I would bring a portable. That's how many. A lot of people didn't come to the game. We had a portable TV up there with us. That's when Dallas was on Friday night. And we was keeping up with shot JR. Phil Roebuck would go out. What we got? What we got? He said, not yet. Literally, between the downs, stopped the game and announced who shot JR. Phil Roebuck did. And everybody, even the referees, everybody clapping. And that's just little things like that to remember at North Cobb.
Fred Key, when I got there, he painted his truck school colors, and he would drive it to all the games. Well, the older he got, he couldn't drive. Well, he smoked those non-filter cigarettes, and one of my coaches had to drive him. He'd get back to school, and he'd be like back to back. Fred was nervous. He done smoked 2 bags of cigarettes from here to Harrison and back.
We have some great people. That's what makes this place so great.
I remember being in the Kiwanis Club in my 20s with Phil Roebuck, and I remember him talking about being the announcer and how affectionate he was when he talked about those experiences. So as we close tonight, so on behalf of the Save Acworth History Foundation, I want to thank you all for your time. I know Coach shared probably a very brief interaction in terms of where you help serve the program, but I know y'all have been a key part about the sustainability of this program since the 70s. So thank you for what you do. And I do want to mention as coach, and I'm sure Tyler can attest to, there were probably a lot of ride homes and stuff where you had brothers that weren't related to you, that were being taken home or being fed, that wouldn't have otherwise had those type of experiences. And we talk about the kids that are going on to college, and all of them have great stories. Darren Waller's story is great. Joshua Joseph's story is great behind the scenes. I'd love to see a day where his mom isn't having to work herself all the time, and hopefully, that comes true during this process. But I know there's hundreds and hundreds of kids that you've impacted in ways that didn't translate to them going on to college or playing in the NFL, that their lives were interceded or redirected because of what you've done as a coach. So we're definitely a better community for the 20 plus years that you put into it. And definitely as a leader, you always want to make sure that you leave things better than you found them. And you're certainly, whenever your time's up there, I think that's going to be something easy that this community can say about you. So let's give our panelists a big round.